Welcome, everyone. This is our second lesson, and last week we looked at public relations, and we defined public relations, and we looked at the three major definitions of public relations. One is by the British Institute of Public Relations. We also looked at another one by the Mexican Statement, and the other one was by Frank Jenkins and Daniel Yard. And we said that for the Mexican Statement, that public relations is the art and social science of analyzing trends, predicting their consequences, and then counseling organization, leadership, and then coming up with planned program of action that will benefit both the organization and its public. And then we said that public are groups of people that interact with the organization, either directly or indirectly. And we classified public as either internal or external. We said that external public are people like consumers, they are people like what we call them, distributors, wholesalers, trade unions, the government. All those are what we call the external public. Internal public are people like the employees. The employees of an organization are the internal public. That brings us, and then we looked at how PR is differentiated or how it is distinguished. We said we looked at PR distinguished from marketing, PR distinguished from advertising, PR distinguished from propaganda, and also being distinguished from sales promotion, whereby we say that no personal selling. Is it personal selling or sales promotion? Yeah, promotion specifically. Yeah? And we say that promotion is a demand stimulating activity. That's why you see people around supermarkets, close to your area where you live, they are promoting products so that they can increase the demand of that product. And once they increase the demand of that product is bought in large quantities and they make profit. We also looked at qualities of a good PR. Then there are so many things we said about public relations, and then I told you to read on images, where we have mirror image, we have current image, we have multiple image, we have corporate image, and so on and so forth. Unless there is a question then I gave what we call activity. I gave activity. One was a discussion and another one was a quiz, of which I've already marked them. As we speak, they are already marked. Now today is our second lesson, and we are going to tackle the second topic. And the second topic that we are going to tackle is what we call crisis. It's not issues management. Issues management. We're going to tackle issues management. I believe where you are, you have a pen, you have a paper, you are seated in a conducive environment whereby you can be able to read, you can be able to write. If you are seated next to, or maybe if you are seated next to animals, they are passing by. Unapita tu hapo, wanyama tu, kuku, punda, wako hapo tu wanapiga kelele. Na unajifanya, na unaona kwamba uko kwa darasa, then you are lying to yourself. You are not in class, you are in a market, or maybe, for example, somewhere else. So a person is ready to learn. Make sure that you have stable internet connection, you have a good gadget. So ile gadget, ndege ikipita inakwambia a new Wi-Fi detected. Not like that. Have a phone that is not overheating. We have so many Chinese phones that we buy in the market, counterfeit, that they overheat. Hata wewe mwenyewe ukiwa umeshika tu hivyo nasikia hii simu inachoma mkono. Yeah, those ones. Ensure that you have a good laptop, good phone, If you are using a phone, ensure that you have stable internet, you are seated in a room where there is no noise, where you can get everything clearly as it comes. Sio kuniambia haunisikii na wengine watu ngapi. Right now we are 48 students. Watu 47 wananisikia. Wewe tu ndio haunisikii. Hata wewe ujichunguze hapo. So anyway, let's start our class. And our class today, we are focusing on issues management. So I'm sharing my screen. I'm sharing my screen so that you can see the notes. That is my screen. So we go to something else. Or maybe let me stop sharing my screen first. Let's start by looking at something else. Or let me share the screen ukiwa unajionea tu hapo, ukiwa unajisomea tu. Kuna watu wanaangalianga notes ambazo zinaandikwa kwa share screen anasoma. So when you talk about issues management is simply a process of addressing any problem that occurs over the course of a project. It is the process of addressing any problem that usually occur in the course of a certain project or within an organization. Issues are there, they happen. And know something to do with issues is that issues are a point of conflict between an activity or between two or more people. For example, issue can be water. People who are living in a semi-arid area, like those people who are coming from Garissa, those who are coming from places like Wajir and so on and so forth, you will realize that the reason as to why they are what we call fights is because number one, there are issues to do with what we call water. There is issue to do with issues to do with water animals or herds of cattle, or maybe for example, talk about domestic animals. Right? Those are the issues that the government has not been able to address. And if they are not able to address such issues, those issues, they become what we call crisis. Become something else that we need to employ KDF to go there, Kenya Defense Force to go there. And some of the defense forces, you find that forces or the army, the defense forces, you find that they are killed in the process of maintaining peace and order. So issues management is simply a process of addressing any problems that may occur or that occur over the course of a project or within an organization. So when an issue arises, it is very important as a PR practitioner to address it as quickly as possible. Ni kama vile wanasema kwa Kiswahili, usipojenga ufa utajenga ukuta, na usipoziba ufa utajenga ukuta. Ufa is simply a crack. If you don't do away with that crack, if you don't mend that crack, then you'll find yourself building the whole wall. So when an issue arises, it is important to address it as quickly as possible. Why? To limit the negative impact. It's to limit the negative impact. And to do this, project managers implement a framework for addressing any issues that may occur. In this particular point, we are talking about the PR manager. They implement a framework for addressing any issues that may occur in an organization. And this may include, maybe for example, assessing the severity or the severity, or assessing the seriousness of the issue, and then researching the best potential solution. Remember last week, we looked at the Mexican statement, and we said that a PR we said that a PR practitioner must do what? Must analyze trends, Analyzing trends, you sit down with the organization leader, you do what you counsel them about the trend. And then after counseling them, what happens? You come up with a planned program of action. You come up with a planned program of action. So there is a book I was reading, a PR book by, is it Philip Hensel? Yeah, it was Philip Hensel. And public relations officer has been given analogy. He has been given so many analogies. An analogy of an eye. An analogy of an eye. That this person is the eye of the organization. You see what the public is doing, and then you communicate to the organization. Say, for example, you are a coffee manufacturing firm. You've just manufactured your first batch of coffee. You have disseminated it to the supermarket or maybe to the community. You need to know the reaction of the community towards your coffee. Maybe they are buying and then they are throwing them away. So you are the eyes of the organization. You are the ears of the organization. You listen to what the public are saying concerning the organization or concerning its products and services, or concerning, say, for example, the staff. The staff. For example, let me give you an example. Just the other day, I think it was this week on Tuesday, I went into the social media, that was Facebook, and there is this group called Buyers Beware. And there is this person complaining so bitterly about Kenya Power Enlightenment. This is a Kenyan who is a farmer, who does what we call, who rears chicken. His brother is in another part of Kenya who has not been able to pay his electricity bill for a certain period of time, to an extent that the electricity bill has accumulated to around 130,000 shillings. Now, Kenya Power Enlightenment goes to the brother who lives in Nyeri and do what? Disconnect the power from the pole. Now, he asked, why are you disconnecting my power from the pole and I usually pay you? I don't have any debt with you, Kenya Power Enlightenment. Now, on this is the story he gives on the social media. Now, the Kenya Power Enlightenment responds to this guy and tells the guy, now, this is the new law. If you don't pay electricity, if your brother has not paid electricity, we disconnect you, so that you pressurize your brother to do what? To pay the electricity. Now, let me ask, what kind of an image is that of such an organization? So there were so many comments concerning the same. Some people are saying that Kenya Power Enlightenment is behaving like school. They are behaving like the credit, this small credit farm, kama kwa mfano Tala, unapata branch, not branch, but unapata Tala, you get things like Zenka, and so on and so forth. That after they give you credit and you fail to pay credit, they now go to your contact. They start searching your contacts and informing them that you have credit with them. So what kind of an image is that? So in other words, my point is this. Public relations practitioner, his work is like the eyes of the organization. See the reaction of the people towards you, towards your staff, towards the organization. Is it negative? Communicate it to the organizational leader. Once you communicate to the organizational leader, they'll be able to take the best step that will benefit both the organization and the public. Don't do anything that does what? That brings about negativity or negative image of the organization. Remember, once the image of an organization is negative, like for example, organizations take time to build their image. They take time, like years, to build their image. But destroying that image is just a matter of a second. In that the same social media, people are advising these guys, just do this, just buy your solar panel and forget about KPLC. You see now what the public are saying. And once people, let's say for example, you have advised this person, this person advises other people, and these other people advises many other people, then you're going to realize as an organization, you are cutting down, you are failing. You have failed completely. Just like a very good example of Airtel, it was called Kensen. It was overcharging customers before when the mobile phones started streaming in Kenya. They were so much overcharging customers, but Safaricom was on the right toe. It started now doing what? Bringing credit for 50 shillings, for 20 shillings, and even for 10 shillings, and even for 100 shillings. But Airtel walisimama ganga, wakaamua ni wakati wa to reap big. Now see Airtel where they are. And it was the best network by the way. It was the good network. People have, and now they are struggling so much to reach where Safaricom has reached. They destroyed their image completely. And that image is still, now when you get the negative image of an organization, it is spread from generation to generation. So this story will continue and continue and continue. Now that you have the story, you pass it to your friends and to your relatives and so on and so forth. So those are some of the crises that we should avoid, or issues that we should avoid. So then, we have said that to do this, PR managers must implement frameworks for addressing any issues that occur. So this includes assessing the severity or the seriousness of the issue and researching the best potential solutions. So some common types of issues may include issues that may happen in an organization. It can be poor quality products, such as a defective software program. Yeah, you are an organization. We have business students here who are doing business. Umeanza biashara ya kufanya nini? Kuproduce product, software, system, software for machines and so on and so forth. Umeanza kutengeneza defective program. The same group that I was talking about, the buyers beware. There is a mother who bought a laptop for his child from one of the buildings in town. And then after charging the laptop for a certain period of time, the laptop goes off. It goes off anytime. Then on returning the laptop to the shop, they are now saying that we don't want the laptop. And these are products that usually have a warranty of 1 year plus. Now, what kind of an image are you bringing as an organization? So those can be the issues. Issue number 2 can be team members who lack certain skills, such as customer service skills. We have members in an organization who don't have customer service skills completely. Have you ever attended an organization whereby you are attended by a person who has got very poor customer service? He doesn't even mind how he's talking to you. How did you feel? That is an issue that needs to be dealt. Otherwise, you'll find yourself having a crisis. Number 3, we can have issues from these issues, like, for example, projects that extended beyond budget or deadline, such as needing more resources to complete a project. Maybe you say, I want 50 employees. Then as you proceed with that particular project, you realize I need other 50 employees. That is an issue that needs to be addressed, so that next time you have a project, you have to have the right number of people working in for that particular project. Also, we have effective communication among team members, such as language barrier or lack of meeting. There are some organizations that work like that. They never have staff meetings. There is always a language barrier. You are talking a different language. The other one is speaking a different language. Those are issues that need to be addressed in an organization. Why? Because you might end up having a crisis in an organization because of a simple thing like ineffective communication. Also, we have technical issues such as communication software not working. If you know your communication softwares are not working, those people are doing IT, because I know the IT are not here. There are those people who will be doing IT, maybe, for example, maybe you'll be working in an organization where there is an IT department. If there is technical issues such as communication software, deal with those issues immediately. Because one day they'll graduate to become crisis. So issues again with a supplier, such as not receiving a response from the supplier, and so on and so forth. So my main point was this. I wanted us to know what is an issue. And we have said that an issue management any problem that occur over the course of a project or within an organization. Then we ask ourselves, if issue management is the process of addressing any problem, then what is an issue? Then I defined an issue by saying that an issue is a point of conflict between one individual and the other, or between an individual and other individual. So then, let me start by sharing my screen. I think it was already shared. Let me start now my class officially. At least you have the background of what an issue is. So then, what is issues management? Issues management is number one, identifying. You have to identify. To identify. After identifying something or an issue, you analyze. Analyzing, developing position, and even briefing the management. You have to brief the management. The management needs to know. Remember, we said that a PR practitioner is the eyes and the ears of the organization. That your work is to do to preempt any possible pitfall. To preempt any possible pitfall that the organization might get into that might get into. Umeona shida mbele, you advise the management. If you go this way, this is the pitfall. These are the disadvantages. This is what you are likely to face. If you go this way, this is what you are likely to face. You advise the management. So issue management is identifying, number one, analyzing, developing position, and briefing management on public policy issues that will have a critical effect on the company. So issues management is usually concerned with, number one, focusing. What is to focus? To focus is to see ahead of others. Yani wewe ulishaona mbele. Si unasema we are going, we are moving on. No, you have to see what we call advise the organizational leadership. So we have, when you talk about issues management, it has got what we call stages. It has got stages. Number one, you need to create a list of issues that appear to be on the move. Find them by being in touch, by asking around, and by consulting. Like, for example, if you get to an organization, you are a PR practitioner, getting to an organization, go to where staff are. Create your own list. Come up with your own list of issues that appears to be potential crisis or potential issue. Chukua kitabu, nenda ukiandika all the issues. Maybe it is all about salary. Employees are not being paid their salaries on time. That is an issue. If you don't pay your employees salaries on time, do that for several months. You will see them demonstrating in the streets. The moment you see them demonstrating on the streets, number one, they are tarnishing your image as an organization. So it has become a crisis. Sorry for that. The internet here in the staff room is usually disturbing, very disturbing. So we are saying this, that the moment you see your employee demonstrating because of delayed salary, then just know that it now has become an issue. Not an issue, but a crisis. And therefore, as no, I cannot. Kurgat, you are telling me to use the big blue button. At this time, I cannot use the big blue button. Why? It will take time. It's something that takes time. So number one, we are told to create your own list of issues that appear to be on the move. Find them by being in touch, by asking around, and by consulting. Secondly, you are told assign priorities to the list according to time scale and the likelihood of the issue moving. That as far as you have done what is called, you have come up with a list of issues, you prioritize which one is more important, depending also on the time scale. Hii itachukua huu muda na hii itachukua huu muda mwingine. Assign priority and then validate your time scale with an external source that you trust. So again, you are told point number 4, set priorities according to the likely, significance, and impact of that issue in your organization. Angalia hiyo issue vizuri. If that issue is very potential, it's going to give a very negative impact to the organization. Deal with that issue. And then you're told validate your time scale. Set priorities according to the likely significance. That's what we have said. Then validate these priorities. Now, it is a very long process that I would want you to sit down and read, because finally you are told to establish which corporate colleague is going to become responsible for the issue. You have now gone through everything. Now come up with a what? A list of people who will deal with specific issues. If it is about employees not being paid on time, select an individual who will be in charge of that. If it is all about water, poor working environment, select a person who will deal with that. If it is all about lack of water, there are some people who goes on strike because the environment is not conducive for working. Set a person who can deal with that issue, and so on and so forth. So you're going to realize when you talk about crisis management, that companies invest large amounts of money. They invest a lot of money in developing and maintaining their corporate reputation. Just like we have said, some images of a company or an organization, it has taken a lot of time and a lot of money. Remember all the advertising. Remember all the publicity. Remember all the offers and promotions that you have done. Remember all the people that you have hired to do all those things. On TV, on radio, on billboards, and everything. You do everything as much as possible to ensure that people know this particular company of yours. And within one day, because you have an issue with your employee, you don't pay them on time. Because you have an issue with your, maybe for example, with electricity. Unajua tu stima zinasubuanga kwa hiyo organization yako. Na saa zingine huwa zinatoa saa kule kwa socket, but you just keep quiet. Siku moja hiyo kampuni, it is a potential danger, and maybe it can bring about what we call fire outbreak. And that one will bring about negative image about your organization. You are a big organization, you cannot tackle such issues. So, employees or people who are working in organizations, they want to be assured about 3 things. Number one, if you are an employee working in an organization, you want to work in an organization that, number one, that you are assured of 3 things. That the company had everything in place to protect the tragedy from occurring. Nobody would want to work in an organization where inaweza kubomoka anytime. Nobody would want to work in an organization where wanaweza chomeka na kwa sababu ya stima. Stima inaweza cause moto na waweze wakaungua. People want to be assured that in spite of such preventative measures, the organization had the foresight to anticipate the possibility of something going wrong and know what to do to solve the problem as quickly as possible. They want to be assured of that. Also, they want to be assured that the organization cared about what happened. In case there was an issue, they cared about what happened. So in today's age of corporate accountability, companies must be prepared to communicate in time of crisis. And the preparation entails what? As an organization, in case there is a crisis, you must be very prepared. Must be very prepared to communicate in time of a crisis. So preparation entails, number one, conducting a risk audit. Risk audit simply means you identify, you come up with what we call auditors to conduct a potential or to look at a potential hazards or those things that can bring about a crisis. So it entails, number one, conducting a risk audit, or we can call it identifying areas where the company is most vulnerable. Maybe the area that the company is most vulnerable is on the area of remuneration. Maybe it is the area of poor working environment. Maybe it is the area of fire outbreak. It is most vulnerable. That moto ikatokea hiyo kampuni, kila kitu inaungua. Number two, you are told identify audiences who could demand information in crisis situation and how they would be communicated to. You need to identify that since this is an organization and it deals with public, who will be demand for information? Of course, the police station will demand for information. The community will demand for the information. The employee will demand for information. The media will be there asking for information, what happened. And if you don't give them the right information, they will use their knowledge to write the news, of which it might be not be positive about the organization. So it is always good to identify the audiences who would demand for information in case there is a crisis. And then number three, you are told identifying, training spokesperson. For example, if you are here and you're a media person, if you are here and you are a hospitality student, you are here, you are doing what we call DBMA, Diploma in Business Management, or Diploma in Human Resource Management. You need to know that in case of a crisis, organizations must be very prepared. Like, for example, in case of fire crisis, we prepare in advance. And the moment we prepare in advance, it's because it might come anytime. It might not come the way you had prepared. Like, for example, tunasema ya kwamba moto utatokea sehemu hii na hii ndio itakuwa emergency door, na ukitokea mahali kuna emergency door. So you need to prepare. You need to even prepare your employees just in case of fire, this is what is going to happen. You're not supposed to talk to because the media people will come in case of such a thing. Not everybody should speak to the media. You should train spokesperson who should speak to the media. Unafanya kazi kwa organization, media wamekuja, wewe ndio wa kwanza kutokea hapo kwa gate kuambia kile kitu kilifanyika. As an employee, you should be the one directing them to the right office to get the right information. And on an organization, don't say, ni media wako hapo waambie waende. Hatutaki kuona media hapa, watatuharibia image ya organization. If you don't talk to the media personnel, you are actually creating another crisis. Because media personnel are coming for the news. Wewe umewafukuza. Then they will look for somebody there outside. Or they will look for their own way of getting information. And they are going to publish the information. They are going to broadcast the information, which might not be true about your organization. So it will be another crisis. Then lastly, you are told, test everything. Once you have realized that there is a potential crisis, you have trained your employees. Test everything. If it is all about fire, test whether the fire extinguishers are working. Check whether those emergency doors are open. Check whether the floor are conducive for, when people are running. When people are running, they cannot do what we call, they cannot fall on the floor because of of how slippery it is, and so on and so forth. So test everything during the simulation exercise. So I think we have talked about it. We have talked about conducting a risk audit. So we have said that when trying to identify potential crises in PR terms, you may end up with a list that is too long. When you present it to the senior management, your credibility is lost. So potential crisis needs to be prioritized. I think this one we have looked at, so that the list can be shortened to manageable sizes. You know, umeingia kila department looking for potential crisis. After zile zinakaa, these ones are serious. Then you need to identify the audience. Audience who might demand compensation and the people who have been affected. For example, the employees will be working in case of fire. Like, for example, right now I'm in an office. In case of fire, what will happen? How have I been trained? What will I do? Will I start now screaming and trying to check, to do what? To jump over the window? Huh? That is it. Identify audiences. Audiences that are affected directly or indirectly. Like the community will be affected. Like people like the stakeholders, they are going to be affected. Imagine a fire crisis. Hata unajua zile ambazo zinachomwa hii Kenya na watoto ambao high school. Regina Modoni, can you switch off your microphone? Thank you. We are saying identify the relevant publics that are going to be affected. Like for example, umeona mashule zikichomwa Kenya hii. Ni nani wanakuwa affected? Number one, watu wanakuwa affected ni students wenyewe. Those are what we call publics of public relations. Those ones are customers. Number two is the community. Mtoto wako alikuwa anasomea hapo, shule imechomwa, community is suffered. We also have families. Families will suffer. We also have the government. The government it will suffer. And so on and so forth. The media also is involved because it will come and cover that news to identify the audience. And then number three, identify and train spokespeople. Not everybody can speak in front of the media in case of a crisis. Kuchagua the weakest people ndio wanatokea pale kwa media. Hata hawajui English, hawajui Kiswahili, hawajui hata hiyo Sheng vizuri. Wana mix Sheng na Kiswahili na Kikuyu na lugha zote. Ni kama video, ni kama drama. Yani wanapeana story vibaya. Identify people who can be very confident, who can sit or who can be in, the camera can be in front of them and they speak with a lot of confidence and with a lot of eloquence and so on and so forth. Don't pick any Tom, Dick and Harry. Mtu anaona kamera amefunga uso, amevaa mask mpaka imeficha macho. Not like that. So train people before and during crisis. Or training people before and during crisis can help enormously, not least because the process will help identify those within the company who possesses natural aptitude and those who don't. Sio kila mtu ni mwerevu ama akona the same aptitude na mwingine. We are all totally different. So such training, you are told, they cannot be introduced as the crisis, though it can be reinforced. They can be reinforced at the time. Hizi training zinafanywa tu before a crisis happens. Wacha kuanza kutrain watu kwa zile crisis zilisha happen. Even though unaweza sema sasa we have learned from our mistakes, we are going to train people. So you're told testing everything, point number 4. You test everything, whether it is working. If you are talking about fire crisis, you are preparing for a fire crisis. Make sure that the fire extinguishers are working. Make sure that the emergency door can open. Wacha kusema in case of fire, ile ni emergency door. What if fire itokea ile emergency door hamjawahi kutest kama inafungukanga ama haifunguki? Unapata watu wengi wanakufa kwa sababu you did not test everything. Test everything. If it is an assembly point, test whether it can accommodate all the employees there. Sometimes we have assembly points ambazo ni kidogo sana. Inatoshea watu 4 ama 5. Yaani hata moto ikakuja inaweza fika hata kule kwa fire assembly point. You're also told that we need crisis management team, that it is important that every organization should set up a permanent crisis management team. Its composition will depend on the kind of organization in question. Like, for example, if your organization is big, then it means that you have how many? You will have a huge crisis management team. If it is a small organization, it will mean that crisis management team will be very small. So its composition will depend on the kind of organization in question. That is, whether it is located in several locations, for example, and the nature of business which it is engaged in. A typical crisis management team can consist of the following people. Number 1, the managing director. The managing director. Remember, the managing director is also known as the GM, the general manager. In other instances, he is also known as the CEO. We can also call him who? The chairman. And we can also call him the president. In outside world, if outside, in other worlds or in other countries, they call the general managers the president. Kama kwa mfano utasikia mtu anasema the president of Safaricom Kenya Limited, instead of the CEO of Safaricom Kenya Limited. So we have the managing director, we have the PR practitioner, we have work manager or the technical officer, we have safety officer, and we also have personnel officer. Personnel officer is simply a HR, the human resource manager. This is an old term. Personnel officer is an old term. So the team must be small. Why? In order to make it easy for the process of communication among them. So members of the team should have deputies in case a crisis erupts during an absence of, or maybe because of, maybe for example, illness, or maybe that person was on leave. The team also, you are told, must hold rehearsal from time to time, every time to time. Be holding every Friday or every, say for example, every first week of the month. We will be looking at a fire crisis. Tunafanya rehearsal. So they must be trained on how to handle issues. You must train everybody on how to handle issues. In case of fire, it will not be helter-skelter. People are running this way, others are running that way. Others are on the windows, others want to jump. Like another school I saw, there was a fire crisis. Students wamesimama kwa ukuta, uko juu, wanaruka chini. And when you look at the distance, where they are jumping from, ni mbali sana, hata wanaweza kuzunguka. Now that is a kind of school where they don't have what? They had not planned for such crisis. Unatengeneza tu shule, unaweka darasa ya juu huko juu. Hapo moto ndio inaanzia, huko juu ndio inaanzia. Mtoto anaona afadhali niruke kutoka kwa dirisha niokoe maisha, na kumbe sasa ndio unaenda kuanguka mahali pabaya. It should be easy to contact them by phone. It should be easy to contact them by phone. And the initiative to tackle the crisis must be taken by the organization and not the media. It should not be the media tackling the issues to do with crisis. So the organization should call the media, but not the other way around. The organization should be the one calling the media. But sometimes you find that media walishafika. Will you tell them to go back? Hatukuwapigia simu mkuje rudini tuwapigie simu. No, you don't do that. You'll be sounding good. and they might also find their own way of getting the information, which might not be the right way, or that might not portray the company the right way. So the first task of the team is to determine how to handle emergencies. So there are two kinds of possible crises: the likely crisis and the unlikely crisis. Likely crises are things to do with what? The hazards that are associated with the operation of a particular organization. These are what we call likely crisis. For example, fire is a likely crisis. It can come out. Fire can occur at a petroleum farm. That one is likely. There is a very high likelihood ya kwamba moto unaweza kuzuka katika kituo cha mafuta ama kituo cha ya mafuta ya gari ama mafuta ya petroli. For example, another likely crisis is the possibility of a sinking ferry. That is a possible crisis. Inaweza kuzama. We also have unlikely crisis. Or maybe before we go to unlikely crisis, we can also have unlikely crisis is hotel will be conscious of food poisoning. For example, things like food poisoning, that is unlikely. Here I happen. So food poisoning, that one is unlikely. These are unlikely crises. For example, in a learning institution, it is unlikely that fire will be there. It's unlikely, as opposed to maybe, for example, petrol station. So those are likely crises. So that must be the end of the today's class, unless there is a question. That marks the end of this class, unless there is a question. Precious, do you have a question? Watu hawakusikii Precious. Tunaona tu unatatiza kitu.
I don't have a question, sir.
Who is here? Nafisa, kuna swali? Nafisa? Nafisa hataki kuongea juu ako nyumbani. Tutakutana tu Thursday next week. Uniambia kwa nini hutaki kuongea kwa Zoom. Juliet Muteti?
No.
Is there any question?
No.
What have you understood in today's class? Juliet. What have you learned in today's class? Juliet Muteti, DHM. Juliet hataki kuongea. What are you doing there? I wonder why you don't like talking while at home. You should be confident because nobody is seeing you. Yvonne Dule Maitia and watu wa DHM. You should be having a lot of confidence. Those who are doing diploma in hospitality management. Nafaa kuwa na confidence. I'm imagining a situation whereby you have been employed by a very good hotel, a 5-star hotel, like for example, Hilton and Silver Spring, and you don't have the confidence to talk to the customer. Unaenda unawaangushia menu na unakaa kando yao hata hauongei. Unangojea wakuitishe chakula. If there are people who should have a lot of confidence are the people who are doing DHM. And the business courses, such as BBMA, you'll be the one, you'll be there doing what for concluding a deal. Jeremiah, Loade, any question?
I don't have a question. I'm okay.
Yvonne Dule Maitia hataki kuongea. Hotel Madam Veronica. Jemima Akinyi, kuna swali? Unajua maswali yanaulizwa number one, kama umeelewa, mtu kama ukiona mtu ananyamaza na unamuuliza swali, huyo mtu ni either ameelewa ama hajaelewa. It's either you have understood or you have not. But because there is no question, don't meet me at the corridor and start asking me questions along the corridor. I will not answer you. You should have answered it when I was in class so that people can learn from your questions. So with that, I call it the end of today's lesson. And
What about the attendance?
attendance. Oh, there is the register. I'll give the register the password. Sijafika huko. So this is what you are supposed to do. Give me a minute. The internet is slow, opening slowly. Number one, the notes for today's lesson is unleashed. They are unleashed. You can open them. You can download them. That is the notes for today's class. Secondly, this is what you're supposed to do today. Reading. There is reading activity there. There is reading activity there, and says read any other supplementary reading material outlining issues management. And activity number 2, which is a discussion in not less than 200 words, discuss what communication entails in crisis management. In not less than 200 words, discuss what communication entails in crisis management. And then you post your discussion or your answers in the discussion forum provided below. And then lastly, there is a quiz for you, which is quiz 2. There is quiz 2, which is you're supposed to do.
What's wrong?
Sorry for that. I was in another phone, which I've received just now. So you're saying you have a quiz there, and then apart from the quiz, let's go to something else, the attendance. The attendance, the password for today's attendance is, let me share on the shared notes section. Not shared notes section, but the shared, what do you call it? On the chat. I'm sharing it on the chat. And kindly don't go. I want to form a group. I'm forming a group right now. PR group, whereby I'm going to invite you through the link. Ngojea tu dakika kama the next like 5 minutes. I form a group and then I will invite you through the link.